On May 6th, a single vessel floating in the Pearl River Delta held perfectly still against crashing waves, suspending a 12,000-ton concrete structure by a web of tension steel cables. A single thruster failure or a microscopic computer miscalculation of the tide would have plunged the entire suspended mass into the sea, shattering millions of dollars of infrastructure in an instant. The crew operating this monstrous machine executed a level of maritime precision that engineers previously considered mathematically impossible in open water. Similar vessels are currently deploying across the globe, rewriting the physical limits of global trade, deep-sea resource extraction, and military projection. Join us, and let's discover China's new ships. Let's go.
Topic number 13. Shulong 2. Slamming backward into a solid sheet of polar ice at full engine capacity guarantees the complete destruction of a standard maritime hull. The Shulong 2 executes this violently destructive maneuver intentionally, utilizing its immense physical weight to crush through 5 feet of frozen ocean while running entirely in reverse. Built entirely from the ground up without relying on foreign blueprints, this massive machine shattered the long-standing global monopoly on polar exploration technology. Traditional icebreakers function strictly as forward-moving machines, ramming the ice repeatedly and praying the forward momentum carries them straight through the blockage. Getting wedged in the frozen wasteland means the mission is completely over. This machine simply spins around, activates a highly advanced multi-directional propulsion system, and carves a fresh escape route through heavy channels that freeze ordinary fleets in place. Inside its heavily armored steel shell, over 90 researchers operate 8 independent science laboratories, completely insulated from the freezing death outside. They remain entirely self-sufficient for months without needing to refuel or dock, altering the balance of power at the extreme ends of the Earth. The polar regions hide vast reserves of untouched resources. Accessing them demands equipment that refuses to break under extreme pressure. Conquering the frozen surface serves as a preliminary test before plunging into a crushing vertical abyss where human biology is instantly pulverized by the absolute weight of the sea.
Topic number 12. CNOC 981. Anchoring a 20-story steel skyscraper in the middle of a churning sea requires a mechanical brute force that defies natural logic. This ultra-deep water drilling platform, floating far offshore, operates exactly like a fully functioning city district suspended over the black abyss. Factoring in the depth of the water and the sheer distance down into the seabed, the massive drills plunge more than 8 miles straight down into the earth. That total distance stretches greater than the total height of Mount Everest, happening entirely out of sight under the crushing pressure of the deep sea. The ocean constantly assaults the exposed structure with shifting currents and monstrous rogue waves. The platform must remain absolutely locked in position to prevent the catastrophic snapping of its ultra-long drill pipes. It achieves this stability using a colossal mooring system of heavy chains biting into the ocean floor, combined with thrusters that continuously fight the ocean's physical forces. Operating this rig autonomously allowed a nation to seize absolute control of its own offshore destiny. 200 workers live aboard this floating fortress for weeks, operating advanced valves and subsea pipelines that tap into massive hidden reservoirs of natural gas. Extracting resources from a fixed point secures massive energy reserves. Conquering the ocean's hostile weather pushes that mechanical evolution further, demanding vessels that plant monumental steel towers directly into the turbulent seabed.
Only 1% of people know the dark truth behind what we are about to show you next. If you want to be part of the few who actually know what's happening in the world, subscribe and leave a like right now. Done? Look at this.
Topic number 11. By Hetton. Jacking a massive vessel completely out of the ocean on 4 colossal steel pillars transforms a floating ship into an impenetrable fortress standing directly above the crashing waves.
The Bihetan operates as a colossal offshore wind turbine installation platform that physically refuses to float while conducting its heavy lifting. It approaches a designated coordinate, lowers its heavy steel legs all the way down into the muddy seafloor, and hydraulic motors push the entire hull hundreds of feet into the air. This eliminates the chaotic rocking motion of the ocean entirely, providing a perfectly stable concrete-like foundation in the middle of the sea. The onboard crane hoists turbine blades the length of football fields into the sky, attaching them to towers that generate massive amounts of electricity for the mainland. A single gust of wind hitting a suspended blade that size acts like a massive sail, threatening to tip the entire operation over. The elevated platform neutralizes that kinetic threat, holding absolute rigid stability while engineers secure the bolts high in the atmosphere. Completing a single turbine creates a permanent power station in open water. Harnessing the wind provides limitless power on the surface. The ultimate battleground for the future of global technology plunges straight downward, scattering vital components across the absolute darkest, coldest, and most violently pressurized environment on the planet.
Topic number 10. Dayang Hao. Lowering a fragile robotic vehicle into 36,000 feet of black water mimics the destruction of dropping sensitive electronics directly into a physical meat grinder. The Dayang Hao serves as a surface mothership for machines designed specifically to survive the Mariana Trench, the most violently pressurized environment on Earth. These autonomous submersibles operate entirely without human intervention, navigating pitch-black trenches using advanced artificial intelligence and specialized sonar systems. They withstand atmospheric forces that instantly crush military submarines into twisted metal. They hunt for something far more valuable than oil or gas. The ocean floor is densely littered with manganese nodules, raw cobalt, and rare earth minerals, all sitting completely exposed in the deep mud. These exact elements form the crucial building blocks required for every electric car battery and modern smartphone in existence. Securing a reliable pipeline to these underwater mineral fields grants an overwhelming economic advantage in the transition to clean energy technologies. The robotic arms detach from the mother vessel, descend for hours into the absolute dark, and systematically harvest the nodules before returning to the surface. Finding these scattered resources requires pinpoint surgical precision. Transporting the resulting finished consumer goods across the globe demands machinery built on a scale that physically distorts the horizon.
Topic number 9. Costco Shipping Universe. Packing 21,000 massive steel shipping containers onto a single floating platform creates a 47-mile-long freight train condensed into one solid metal hull. Stretching over 400 meters long, this vessel moves across the ocean, carrying an incomprehensible volume of global commerce in a single continuous voyage. Every single metal box is arranged by a supercomputer, evaluating exact weight distribution, ensuring the staggering vertical stacks remain perfectly balanced. A microscopic miscalculation in the algorithmic load balance generates physical stress forces capable of snapping the ship's spine in open water. This colossal machine operates on routes connecting over 160 countries, carrying a massive percentage of the physical objects currently sitting in your home. A multi-story diesel engine drives a propeller so impossibly large it displaces enough water to flood a small town with every single rotation. Special friction-reducing paint and a system that ejects tiny air bubbles beneath the hull allow this steel mountain to glide through the water efficiently. A skeleton crew monitors the radar and structural integrity from a bridge situated so high in the air they require an elevator to reach it. Maintaining these sprawling global supply chains establishes total economic dominance. Defending those colossal aquatic networks forces the creation of military fortresses capable of neutralizing airborne threats from hundreds of miles away.
Topic number 8. Type 003 Fujian. Catapulting a fully loaded fighter jet off a short runway using blasts of raw electromagnetic energy requires a terrifying surge of instant electrical generation.
This vessel displaces over 85,000 tons, serving as a sovereign, floating piece of military territory that dictates global borders. Older aviation vessels rely on massive, highly volatile steam pipes built deep under the deck to launch their aircraft. This entirely new class of carrier abandoned steam entirely, utilizing an electromagnetic aircraft launch system that accelerates heavier jets carrying maximum weapon payloads to flight speed in mere seconds. The entire cycle resets instantly, allowing the flight deck to hurl a new fighter into the sky every 30 seconds during active combat operations. Very few nations have ever cracked the engineering required to sustain this violent electrical draw without completely shutting down the ship's internal grid. A sprawling maze of mechanical elevators continuously cycles deadly munitions and fresh aircraft from the heavily armored internal hangars directly to the flight deck above. Thousands of sailors operate this floating military base, projecting absolute air superiority thousands of miles away from any friendly coastline. Projecting air superiority dictates the rules of engagement on open water. Total global dominance requires machinery capable of physically erasing the boundaries between the ocean and the land, shredding the Earth's crust to build entirely new geography.
Topic number 7. Tian Kun Hao. Shredding the solid ocean floor with spinning steel teeth and pumping the pulverized rock miles away creates sovereign landmasses where absolutely nothing but water existed yesterday. The Tian Kun Hao operates as a heavy dredging vessel that literally builds artificial islands, radically escalating the scale of geographical engineering. It drops a colossal mechanical cutter head directly into the seabed, tearing apart solid coral reefs and compacted rock with terrifying violent force. The ship sucks up this shattered debris through massive internal pipes and fires it out like a liquid cannon, depositing millions of tons of sediment onto designated shallow reefs. This continuous violent eruption of sand eventually breaches the ocean surface, forming a solid foundation for military airstrips and radar towers. It alters international maritime borders by generating physical territory out of thin air, forcing global maps to be completely redrawn in real time. The sheer volume of material moving through the ship's digestive system can fill a massive sports stadium in a matter of days. Entire military bases now sit securely on land that this single ship manufactured from the bottom of the sea. Building islands out of nothing permanently rewrites the geographical map. Moving pre-existing megastructures across those newly conquered territories requires a colossal transport vessel willing to intentionally sink itself into the abyss.
Topic number 6. Xin Guanghua. Submerging the entire main deck of a massive ship deep beneath the ocean's surface just to load cargo actively invites a catastrophic sinking event. The Xin Guanghua functions as a semi-submersible heavy-lift vessel designed exclusively to carry loads that remain physically impossible to lift with standard cranes. Transporting an entire offshore drilling rig or a damaged military destroyer requires the ship to flood its massive internal ballast tanks, intentionally sinking its own main deck deeply underwater. The towering cargo is then towed by tugboats directly over the submerged steel floor. Once the cargo reaches perfect alignment, the vessel pumps the water out of its tanks, rising slowly from the depths and lifting the massive structure completely out of the ocean. Stretching over 200 meters, the deck resembles a vast empty parking lot capable of hauling 100,000 tons of solid steel across the globe. This unique capability eliminates the need to construct massive industrial platforms in remote, highly dangerous locations. They undergo safe construction in specialized coastal shipyards and then travel entirely intact to their final destinations. Hauling pre-built infrastructure represents an incredible feat of buoyancy. Constructing colossal architecture piece by piece in the open ocean demands a specialized machine capable of lifting the sky itself.
Topic number 5. Zhenhua 30. Hoisting the equivalent weight of 80 fully loaded jumbo jets simultaneously while floating on choppy water requires a stabilization system that absolutely defies gravity. This heavy-lift crane vessel stretches over 600 feet long and utilizes a colossal web of steel beams to hoist 12,000 tons into the sky. Its most terrifying achievement involved suspending massive concrete sections of the longest sea-crossing bridge on Earth with pinpoint surgical accuracy. Fighting against rapid ocean currents, violent tidal shifts, and brutal winds, the ship utilized a complex dynamic positioning system to hold its geographic coordinates perfectly locked. Computer-controlled thrusters fired continuously in every direction, adjusting the ship's position by microscopic fractions of an inch to prevent the suspended concrete from swinging and shattering. The engineering crew monitors every single tension cable and hydraulic pulley, knowing a single snapped wire causes a catastrophic chain reaction, tearing the ship apart. It avoids dropping physical anchors to achieve this stability, relying entirely on raw engine horsepower and satellite positioning to fight the ocean's natural push. Building massive bridges forcibly connects existing human coastlines. Commanding the uncharted territories of the deep requires relinquishing human control entirely, handing the steering wheel over to a synchronized swarm of artificial intelligence.
Topic number 4. Zhu Haiyun. Unleashing a synchronized swarm of autonomous aerial drones, surface boats, and underwater submarines from a single moving platform completely eliminates human error from ocean exploration. The Zhu Haiyun operates entirely without a traditional captain holding a steering wheel, functioning instead as a highly advanced self-navigating mothership controlled by artificial intelligence. Reaching its designated coordinates triggers the deck to open, deploying dozens of unmanned mechanical vehicles that scatter in every direction, mapping the seafloor, testing water chemistry, and scanning the horizon simultaneously. The central computer system processes the massive influx of data streaming back from the drones in real time, making independent navigational decisions to avoid collisions and track moving targets. Operating in absolute silence, this vessel blankets a massive area of the ocean with high-tech sensors, creating a highly detailed three-dimensional map of both the airspace above and the deep trenches below. This technology changes how maritime surveillance operates, removing the risk to human life in extreme weather conditions. The drones dock themselves automatically, recharge their batteries on the deck, and prepare for the next deployment. Gathering aquatic data secures a massive tactical surveillance advantage. Penetrating the solid crust of the Earth itself demands a colossal drilling mechanism capable of surviving geological temperatures that liquefy solid rock.
Topic number 3. Mengshang. Boring a hole straight through the abyssal plain to reach the Earth's upper mantle requires a diamond-tipped drill operating miles below the ocean surface. The Mengshang pursues the specific mission of piercing the absolute deepest layers of the planet, aiming for the geological boundary where the crust meets the mantle. Hovering above the deep ocean, it lowers miles of heavy drill pipe into the black water before it even touches the mud of the seafloor. Making contact activates the rotary systems that grind through solid basalt and ancient tectonic plates with terrifying mechanical force. Understanding this deep subterranean layer provides crucial data regarding devastating earthquakes, the origins of our planet, and catastrophic volcanic eruptions. The massive derrick tower rising from the center of the ship houses an extreme amount of mechanical torque, actively fighting the friction of millions of tons of rock grinding against the drill bit. A stuck pipe in the rotating Earth generates sheer twisting forces capable of ripping the entire drilling mechanism completely off the ship. The onboard laboratories instantly analyze the ancient rock cores pulled from the depths, keeping the fragile geological samples perfectly preserved. Drilling into the planet's core unravels ancient geological mysteries hidden below. Commanding the orbital satellites flying directly above the atmosphere requires a mobile tracking station the size of a city block navigating the open sea.
Topic number 2. Yuan Wang 7. Pointing massive parabolic satellite dishes at the sky from the deck of a violently pitching ship,
requires gyroscopic stabilization that borders on the mathematically impossible. The Yuan Wang 7 tracks hypersonic missiles and orbital space stations from the absolute middle of nowhere, acting as a crucial node for deep space communication. When a rocket launches into orbit, it eventually passes out of range of land-based radar stations, requiring a mobile fleet strategically positioned across the global oceans to maintain an unbroken signal. The 3 colossal dish antennas mounted on the deck continuously adjust their angles, locking onto fast-moving targets in the exosphere while the ship rolls and crashes through heavy ocean swells. Losing the signal for even a fraction of a second during a critical orbital docking maneuver spells absolute disaster for the astronauts involved. The vessel houses banks of supercomputers processing telemetry data in real time, feeding vital trajectory information directly back to mainland control centers. It operates in the most isolated regions of the Pacific, ensuring complete coverage of the orbital pathways high above the clouds. Guiding orbital space stations ensures technological dominance among the stars. The most dangerous and revolutionary maritime engineering project ever attempted brings the volatile power of atomic fire directly to the populated shoreline.
Topic number 1. Linglong 1. Sailing a fully operational, highly radioactive nuclear reactor directly into a crowded coastal city sounds like an absolute logistical nightmare. This floating nuclear power plant takes small modular reactor technology, installs it inside a heavily armored maritime vessel, and creates a mobile electricity generator capable of powering 150,000 homes. Decades of expensive concrete pouring for traditional land-based power plants vanish completely. This ship simply sails to any remote island, military outpost, or developing coastline on Earth, plugs heavy transmission cables directly into the local grid, and instantly solves their energy crisis. Keeping a live nuclear core completely stable while floating on a shifting ocean requires unparalleled shock absorption and self-regulating cooling systems. A catastrophic failure triggers the reactor to automatically flood itself with infinite ocean water, passively cooling the core without requiring any electrical backup pumps. Depleting the uranium fuel prompts the entire ship to simply unplug, sail back to a secure shipyard for safe refueling, and a fresh vessel takes its place seamlessly. Passing the most brutal international safety inspections in the world proves that mobile atomic energy safely powers the future. This machine does not just transport cargo, weapons, or scientific data across the ocean, it physically moves the electrical grid itself.
If you thought this was terrifying, you are not ready for what they found in the video on your screen. Click it right now. The truth is worse than you think.